Good evening. We are beginning the Tree Advisory Committee meeting for July 18th, 2024 at 4:03. Call to order. First item on the agenda is approving the minutes from June 13th.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the minutes are approved for June 13th meeting. All right, public appearances. No one who is registered or wants to speak tonight. We're thankful that Sue's here.
Yeah,
As always.
Sue.
All right. Okay, agenda review. Are there any recommendations for changing in the agenda as in the sequence that it is currently? Okay. If not, we approve the agenda for tonight. So we forgot to vote on it? No.
I think we need a second.
Yes, I think so.
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, tonight's agenda is approved. So the first item on the agenda is the Emerald Ash Board Management Plan update for 2024. And we all have a copy of that. So,
All right, it's a very riveting document. So this is one of the things that Morgan helped me update. We really should have done this a year ago, but basically this is the update to the plan that was approved in March of 2018. And it keeps the same general two-pronged approach of, inspections of ash trees, treatment as we can, and then removal of anything that is basically what we deem as not worth treatment. When we inspect things, we're giving them a grade of like good, fair, poor, or remove now. We obviously don't treat the poor or remove now. We treat the fair, the good or fair. And so we treat about 100 and change trees a year, that's kind of, that's the long story, very short. But there's an awful lot of detail in here about how we get to, how we got to the different, just in terms of numbers of ash trees and how we got to different. It's one of our trees we're treating in McKee Farms Park. That's a private ash tree that has not been treated. And this, as we were talking about earlier, this is how most trees that have not been treated, this is what they look like. We do not have any trees like this on public property that I'm aware of. We have removed everything that is, if we're not treating it, we remove it before it gets to this point. So we're not spewing beetles, we're not giving the beetle more habitat, and we're also eliminating that hazard. And we've been very aggressive about taking out any ash trees that are no longer on our treatment list. And we have not, to my knowledge, had any. I'm gonna say we haven't had any ash trees come down in a way that was not planned. So we've had some storm damaged ash trees that we've taken down, but they haven't been, it hasn't been a hazardous situation. We haven't had, for example, you hear about dead ash trees falling on people's cars and homes and this and that and the other thing. We have not had that here at all in terms of public trees. So I think our Emerald Ash Borer program or project, I want to say, I think it's going fine. I will say the one thing that's changed a lot since 2008 is that EAB is no longer regulated. It's no longer regulated federally. It's no longer regulated by the state. So there are no longer any quarantines, any state or federal quarantines for Emerald Ash Borer. So the whole thought about, well, once it moves through, we're fine. Someone will bring it back. It was people brought it here, and it is, it will be in the area forever. And even if we, it moves, quote unquote, moves to the area, someone will bring it back. So we are treating trees forever. There will be no break from treating trees at this point. We do not have landscape tools to deal with this pest. We have a tree by tree tool, which is tree injection. It is very expensive. We spend about $5,000 on the chemical. But because we get a municipal price, but 1 liter is $500, and 1 liter treats 10 inches of tree. So, well, 10-inch trees, so it's 100 inches. But at any rate, it's not cheap, it's not getting cheaper, and there really are no, as far as I know, there's nothing on the horizon that's better than amyloactive benzoate, which is what we are using right now to treat trees. So
My understanding is that they can only be treated for a limited amount of time as well.
that's what we're trying to figure out. I don't know that we know. I mean, there are some trees we have treated since 2013. So, I mean, we're going on, and they were treated on a 3-year cycle until I changed that in 2017. I changed that to a 2-year cycle. So now, I mean, every other year they're getting drilled into and they're getting injected. So is that awesome for the tree? Probably not. You know, it does wound the tree. And like last year, we tried really hard to treat trees, but we are dependent on that tree's vascular system to move that chemical through the phloem, to make the phloem poisonous, because, you know, EAB is a phloem feeder. Basically what we're doing is we're making that phloem poisonous and killing the larva. That's what we're trying to do with EAB treatment. And if the tree is not transpiring, if it's not moving things through or not moving things very well, we got nothing. So, and last year with the drought, I think the guys did a really great job of trying to take advantage of every window where trees were transpiring and get that chemical to move through. But I've already marked, I think, 6 or 8 trees for removal that we treated last year that are now so heavily infested, they're beyond saving. So, yeah, and that's drought. And that's drought. I mean, the tree is very stressed because of drought, which attracts more beetles, and it just was.
It advances.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you know, drought is wonderful for beetles and bad for trees, and you see that. And you see that. The other thing just to keep in mind is if a tree has vascular damage in some portion of it and it can't move that chemical through very easily, the beetle takes advantage of that. And once it gets in, it's in. So it doesn't matter, I mean, if you're trying to treat that tree and the beetle gets in somewhere where the tree has vascular damage, you know, you can kind of suppress that population for a while, but the beetle's gonna win. I mean, it's just, there's not really, emerald borer is the worst forest pest we have had on this continent probably ever, and we have very limited tools, and people I think have an expectation that we're saving these ash trees, which really isn't true. I mean, we're kind of delaying, they're firewood on the hoof. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. We're buying time
We're buying
time.
So we can plant other trees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're trying to keep you know, catch the canopy up, but it's not an awesome situation. And I would also like to point out something that I don't know that I mentioned in the past, but we did not get, I find it very remarkable that we are one of the only municipalities that got 0 resources to deal with emerald ash borer other than the budget for the chemical. We got no extra time, we got no extra, nothing, right?
In the
Nothing.
city budget, you mean?
Exactly. So, and we still have, I think, done a pretty commendable job, you know, dealing with that pest, because it is, again, one of the worst forest pests we've ever seen, probably will see. However, I will say that does take all the slack out of our sort of forest pest ability to deal with things. So, example, now we have this big sponge moth population in Greenfield Park and other places, and it's really hard for us to deal with it because we're kind of focused on EAB, and we don't really have the staff resources to do forest health work in general, and everything, any, you know, slack that was available is working on emerald ash borer. So it's just something to keep in mind. Yes.
And that kind of,
I kind of wonder why you don't concede defeat on the border and just sort of plan to remove like 10% or whatever percent of all ash trees every year.
That's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, well, and not treat so many, just kind of let them die.
Well, because people would have a fit. Or the people whose trees they would go berserk. You know, I mean, I don't know that that's really an option. I don't think we can really tell people, like, we've been treating your tree, we're to stop.
Well, it's not their tree, it's the city's tree, right?
It
But
is.
they're attached to their city tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we probably take, percentage-wise, we have about 300 and change ash trees. I've probably marked almost 20 for removal this year. So that's, you know, that's 15% more than.
So you are taking out about 15% every year.
At least.
That seems reasonable. Yeah.
This year there's more because of the drought. It goes up and down. So you bring up a good point here, Ann. So to talk about the inventory, we have about 300 trees here. This is where they're growing, or this is what we have, white versus green. White seems to do better. So with the borer and with treatment, which is why we've got more we're probably gonna end up with more white, we have more white in treatment. This is kind of where they are, which is not, so they're sort of concentrated.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, right, it's kind of how it goes. We only, let's see, this is the, what is this? Yeah, this is so the park trees, we only have, I think 15 in parks. What is this? Oh, those are the rights of way, yeah, where there isn't a sidewalk. Anyway, so this is the size they are, which is important from a treatment perspective. This is just the picture of the guys doing the treatment. I'm trying to get to the removal numbers here. Okay, so you can see we're treating a lot less trees now than we ever have because we're removing them. And in terms of, so last year we did 100, this year we did 103, I think. And in terms of removing, so we've been taking trees out. This year, so last year it was 23. This year it'll probably be, I bet 35. We'll probably end up taking about 35 out. But I mean, it kind of goes in waves depending on what the weather's like.
And then this year now, the whole pool has increased because of the town of Madison added.
So excellent point. So you bring up a good point. So I knew before. So I knew that where the ash trees were in the town of Madison, before we got them. So I was kind of geared up to take those down. So last year, it was a little sad, but one of the first things that we did from a forestry department is we showed up in town of Madison and removed a bunch of ash trees. We have replaced all of those, I will say.
Have or have not?
We have. We replaced them with a few, but the rest of the town of Madison, I think there's 26 of them, or 20. There's a handful of 20 something that we have not gotten to remove yet. That are not in they're not in that Southdale neighborhood. They're more on some of those more industrial roads, and they will get. I have money in that IRA grant to remove those trees. If that comes through, that's how we'll take those down. If that doesn't come through, then we'll do it ourselves. So. But there's a capacity issue in terms of how many trees we can remove a year and how much wood debris we can deal with. So we have to kind of have to think it through. We did not have the wall of wood that everyone was predicting with Emerald Ash Borer. Oh, there's gonna be this wall of wood, there's gonna be, piles of wood that you can see from space, all this kind of stuff. Right, exactly. I mean, people really kind of went berserk with it, and that didn't really happen. And partly because I think we grind so much and we have such a demand for mulch and for chips that not that grinding is free, but we can grind and then get and have an outlet. We have an outlet for it. So it hasn't been as bad as people thought we were going to. But.
So if you grind up a tree and you put it on that pile down at the, and I take some of that home, could there be bugs in it?
You bring up an excellent point, and the answer is there might be. Now, I will say probably not, but because so you bring up a good point, because to grind chips so that Emerald Ash Borer cannot survive, they have to be 1 inch by 1 inch in 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to sieve them, and they have to fit through a sieve that's got a 1 inch square, screen. So would all of our chips fit through that screen? No. Would most of them? 90% of them would. But, if you have some of those bigger chips, there could be larvae in there. So now, will ash borer survive in that? In theory, it can survive for up to 2 years. I think it probably would die pretty quickly. But, that's how it gets spread around, right? That's how it gets spread around. So could there be emerald ash borer in those chips? There could be. Is there? Probably not, but you don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a good point.
But they're not going to be dangerous unless you have unless you have an ash tree.
I mulch my ash tree with that stuff.
Right.
You do.
Right.
Yeah, and I treat it, but
Yeah, no, that's a
it's a crapshoot, I guess.
It is, but that is an excellent
So
point.
the ones you take down, you only take down ones that are infected?
Well, or they have such a poor form that we can't treat them.
Okay.
So there's some that end up with, for example, with storm damages last year, we had several, I want to say 8. I can't remember. We had at least 8 that lost enough branches that I was like, you know what, we can't really treat this. Or cars hit them.
Yeah.
Like we've lost several ash trees to vehicles hitting them and putting a big wound on them. And I'm like, well, if this is a different tree, we could try to work with this, but it's an ash tree, and we can't really. We can't really it limits the amount we can treat, it limits where we can inject, and the beetles will get in here, like, it's just, we can't deal with it. So anyway, yeah. So that's that's a long story longer, but very good question here. At any rate, so just to I kind of been zooming through this, maybe a little bit haphazardly, but just to recap and to your point that we take out, so 10% would be 30 trees. So this year we will for sure get that. We've been a little under that the last couple years, but you can see from the list, like, you know, there's some years where we've taken out quite a few, so.
Right, it sounds like it's not practical to remove more.
Not really, although we have, a lot of those aren't very big. So we try to keep track of, when I'm planning tree removals, I try to keep track of like, okay, is this something really small that's just a quick swipe and through the chipper, or is it something that takes more time? Like we try to kind of space that stuff out. So we have the capacity to get it done.
And I would think that some still contribute to the canopy and still contribute some benefits to the environment.
You're exactly right, and so that's why, right, and that's the other reason we don't take them down right away, because like, for example, you know, there are some parks that we've taken all the ash trees out, and the replacements are sort of catching up, but then we have a storm and we lose some of those big canopy trees and there's not much left. And there are some parks where the only big canopy trees are ash trees, and we're treating them and trying to keep them on the environment as long as we can. They look okay, while the other ash replacements we've planted kind of get some kind of, because the character of that park, those parks really change when you take down those big trees. And you don't want to just, you know, wipe it out and have no shade in the park.
I'm sorry.
And I think too, I do think it's worth doing, you know, I mean, so.
Is it helpful at all for homeowners to let you know if they have a terrace tree that's starting to look like it's ready to be removed?
Yeah, and people call me.
Okay,
Which is fine. Yeah, which is fine. So, and then sometimes we call them, and then of course Sue has a comment, which is awesome. Question, sure.
Okay.
Come on up, Sue.
You're not supposed to sit here.
Yes, you're,
Not speak from back there. You're
okay,
supposed to say who I am.
yes,
Hi, Sue. I am a Fitchburg resident. My name is Sue Easterdam of the Parks Commission.
yes.
And I always come here thinking I'm just gonna listen. And then I think of a question.
Yeah,
So,
which is good.
the question I have is about Wildwood Park, where
Oh, yeah.
Ann's lovely sister Caroline and I have been working in a very shady corner.
Yes.
And it's shady for a couple of reasons, but a big reason is the beautiful big ash trees
Yes.
in that corner.
Yes.
So we talked just the other day about when those trees die, everything we have planted, which is
Right.
a shade native,
Yes.
is gonna have to figure out if it's gonna make it or not.
Right.
And so that's just a comment, when you just said it changes the character of a park,
It does.
it changes the environment if it's not more turf. But the question we were both talking about is those trees look like they've been there a while, and if you can, you don't have to tell me in this moment, but what's the life expectancy of ashes in general? Is that a greener or white, those, and then
green.
those are green, so they even have less survivability, but their age, what's the age expectancy of an ash tree?
So I would say 80 to 100 years, and those trees are probably 50 some years old, 50,
Okay.
60.
All right.
So in theory, we'd have them for another 50 or 60 years,
Right.
you know, and we've already lost 8 trees in that park.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And we planted a sugar bush, which is awesome.
Yeah, there's other things there, and even looking at the shade, other shade available nearby is a walnut tree. Well, you just deal with that,
Right.
it's still shade.
Right.
But it's such a tight corner that you really can't put anything else there
No.
to replace it. Yeah, well, you can, but it's gonna
Anytime.
struggle for sun that itself needs amongst those ash trees,
Yes.
so it's just kind of a,
You're right,
it's
yeah.
just not an easy thing. You just don't say, well, we'll put these in here
Right.
and it'll work.
And we've tried to do preemptive replacements, and it works okay, but it's not, we lost some for that exact reason, they were too shaded.
Lost some what?
So in Hatchery Hill, for example, we had a lot of ash trees there that could not be treated for various reasons, right? So we were gonna lose that neighborhood. was gonna lose, I can't remember what the number was, but it was, I wanna say 35 or 40% of the canopy because of ash. It just, I thought a lot. So I'm like, okay, I knew this was coming, so I started replacing them before we got the other ash trees out, the infested ash trees out. And some of those replacements didn't do well, I think, because they had enough shade, enough competition from those ash trees, they didn't do as well as I would have liked. So, yeah, so it's tricky. And we've been working at it. I mean, we've tried a lot of different things, and it's just a heartbreak all around. And there's a couple of parks where the dominant tree were like 2 ash trees. You take those trees out, it's a completely different environment. And we've tried to replace them, and those new trees, I lost one, but anyway. So, and we keep at it, right? We keep trying to replace them, and we often plant more than we, think we need, and it's tough. It's really tough. And especially in neighborhoods where that's primarily ash. So if you lose the trees in those parks and then you lose the terrace trees, it's tough. It is a tough road to hoe.
Well, we appreciate the replacements that
We try.
going on like at least 6 years or more that you've been adding trees.
Yeah.
That's appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
Very,
Yes.
very aggressive planting, it's wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really.
Thank you. We got a little
Yeah.
behind last year, but we'll catch back up. The reason we got a little behind,
So,
it's not a huge deal, but the reason we got a little behind is just because we were just trying to do a really good job of where we're putting ash trees back in. We were trying to do more canopy renovation, and so we didn't get to. So we did more. So we focused a little bit more on canopy renovation and replacing ash trees and replacing other things too. So we didn't get to a couple of straggler ash trees, but we'll get there. They're on the list. So, anyway.
So I was just looking at the public education and communication
Yes.
piece, and I was just wondering, we've talked about these things in regards to other topics as well. So, I mean, since the plan began, the science has changed a little bit, and I just wonder if it might be beneficial, in addition to the information on the website and this information, whether it might be beneficial to write something for the Fitchburg Star.
We could. We used to have a relationship with them, and we no longer do.
Right.
So I don't know how to do that now.
Well, they had Andy Slater's.
They did.
Yeah,
That
they
was
still
very
are running
nice.
that section. I think they appreciate
If we,
the contributions.
okay.
Yeah.
He wrote a very nice little thing.
Are you talking about like where the RCC has their
Yeah.
member? Yeah. I bet
Those
you
are
could
still
jump into
RCC,
that.
yeah, has an agreement where they do it on a regular basis.
They do, all the members kind of rotate. I'm sure they'd be more than happy for you to jump in and
Yeah.
And I'm
do
wondering.
one.
Yeah, we
And I know,
That's a
we
great
talked,
idea.
Sue and I and Craig have talked about this a little bit, and I know you might be interested in helping with that too, working with Anna on that.
Yeah, we could do that. We used to write into the Fitchburg Star quite often because we paid for space, and then for whatever reason we don't have that relationship with them anymore. So
Yeah, I think it had to do with, the council isn't paying for that any longer because it's not being distributed throughout the whole community.
yeah,
So,
I think that's exactly
and
it.
hopefully that will change in the future, maybe that relationship will change.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Because we used to just be able to say, here's this stuff. Could we please have the Fitchburg Star? And I was like, yes. And they had a little spot where they put all of our stuff, which was awesome. And then now it's sort of like, well. So anyway, yeah. No, you're right. We could just do a little blurb on, and encourage people to treat their trees or take them down. I mean, having a dead ash tree that's spewing beetles is not great. It's just not. And it makes it more of an uphill battle for folks who are trying to save their trees. And also if you're not gonna treat it, there's no point to keep it. There's none. And I've had people say, well, we haven't taken it down yet because we're waiting to see if there's, if it'll be resistant. No, it will not be resistant. There is no way that any green ash tree that is planted in the terrace is gonna be resistant because they're all the same. They all came from the same nursery stock. They are all practically genetically identical. They are not, there's no way that one is different enough that emerald ash borer is not gonna eat it. No, that's just not even in the realm of possibility. It's not. I mean, that's like basically saying, well, maybe tomorrow the sky will be purple. No, it will not. It will not. So that is not even on the agenda. And the other thing people say is like, oh, well, we really hope that there will be something that we can use to take care of the street. There is now. It's called emamectin benzoate. We have nothing else that's gonna be better on the horizon. We just don't. So, so the tool we have is emamectin benzoate. If you wanna use it, fine. If you don't, people really do need to highly consider taking their tree down. And it's a heartbreak, and I understand that, but that's the unfortunate situation that we're in. And I wish we were not, but.
There's no federal or state grants that people can apply for, like if they have economic hardship? Because I think the other thing is taking down a
Yes.
tree is very expensive.
It is, you're 100% right.
Like we had a tree fall at this degree angle and it was like $4,500 to take it down, right? So like,
Yes, you are right.
I
Yes.
wonder if, I'm sure there's not, but I don't know if there, it would be lovely if there was some sort of program where people could get financial assistance because they're doing a kind of really nice service to
Right.
their environment.
There's nothing that I'm aware of for private trees. There's not a lot of public assistance for private tree work in general, unfortunately.
Question?
Yes.
Is it true that it costs more to remove a completely dead tree versus one that you know is going to die but
Yes.
still has life in it?
Yes.
That might be a nice
Yes.
point to socialize.
Yes.
Right, the amount of,
Yes, it
because
is.
the amount of, it's a bigger danger to the
Yes.
people doing the work. They can't just climb up a tree that's been dead for 10 years or 5
That's
years.
a great point to socialize.
This is a great point too, because
Yeah.
if a tree has some life left in it, it has holding wood, right? It's got enough, so you can control the direction of the felling. If the tree is dead, there is no holding wood, you cannot control where that tree is gonna go. And you have the added danger, as you have pointed out, of branches falling off. So it is actually very dangerous and more expensive to take down a dead tree for those two reasons. If you take down a tree that's half dead, that has holding wood, that you kind of know, okay, well the canopy is gonna hold together enough that I can get down here and do this, it's more, you can do it by hand. If it is a completely dead tree with lots of dead branches, it's probably a bucket truck job, which is a whole nother magnitude of expense.
That's good to tell my neighbors.
Yes. So if you're not, that's why I say either treat it or take it down. And there's,
In a dead tree too, once all the sap's out, it's harder on the chainsaw.
oh really?
It's tougher and harder wood for them to,
Wow.
to cut down,
It
so.
heats
yeah.
up. It heats up.
You'd think it'd be easier, oh, all the leaves are gone, we don't have to haul those. You know, it's like, oh, this should be good, and they were like, no, that's really rough on the chainsaw,
Yeah.
harder, yeah.
And there's more, it's more friction, yes, so.
This
Yes.
is a kind of obvious point, but another reason to take down a tree proactively is then you can plant a new tree and it can get started sooner, because it'll take 10 years before it'll look nice. So get started now.
Yes.
Do we communicate any of, speaking of the Fitchburg Star, which I think I get the point, and it is a bummer that it does not circulate to our entire community. I get not wanting to fund something that doesn't speak to everyone in Fitchburg. But do we ever circulate content with like HOAs or neighborhood groups? Like I live in Seminole Forest, which we have a lot of great, very tree-aware people, and we have newer people to the neighborhood that aren't as aware of caring for trees. And so I just wonder,
We do not do a great job of communicating in general, I think, and I don't know of how we would do that.
I wonder if it's a really great task for myself and my fellow alders to think about, like, if we either have like newsletters or have good connections with our local neighborhood groups to try and start socializing.
Because this came up with the Fitchburg Star, we no longer funded that portion of the Fitchburg Star to print our stuff, and then there was talk of, well, the city should put together a newsletter, and there really wasn't anyone to do it, I think, was what it came down to. And, you know, we don't, I mean, we used to keep a list of the neighborhood associations. I don't know that we do that anymore.
We do.
Um,
The city does.
It's still on the web.
Is
The
it still on the
city
webpage?
does.
I just don't know if anyone's updating it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And-
I think,
A year ago, it was.
Was it a fine? Okay, maybe that's is happening. But yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a good point, but I don't know how to, like, short of like me sending a bunch of emails to like, I'm not sure who, I don't know how we would do that.
I think that HOA, I think it's their responsibility to let the city know when something needs to be updated. I don't think the city is, I think that's the HOA's responsibility. And then it depends on what they have already organized. Do they have a website? Do they have a
Oh, it
newsletter?
very
Do they
much
have?
varies, yeah.
And if you don't, and that's all volunteers.
Right.
For
So-
sure,
And
for sure.
everybody here knows how difficult it is, how short people's time, how people don't have a lot of extra time, so that's always, I think it's always worth trying to do.
We did,
I just think it's a challenge.
we have in Wildwood, the neighborhood association isn't so robust as Seminole Forest, because ours is not compulsory and there are no dues. So maybe half the people who live there have provided a current email address, we have a Facebook page. How many of the people that actually were allowed to join at the onset live in Wildwood, it's all loosey-goosey. But I do get emails from other city departments saying, you know, not a lot, but please, you know, I'm trying to think of the example, but please pass this along to your
Or say things
residents
like
as
that.
able. So some people in some of the offices here are making use of the city website, email list, or however it's set up.
You guys also have a really good Facebook group.
It's,
like very active.
no, that's Wildwood South.
Oh.
And they do. And I don't know why, everybody in Wildwood is like, well, I'll read everything, but I won't comment. And maybe that's good, they're very nice. Maybe
It's very cordial.
It's
It's a very cordial.
nice and quiet. But Wildwood South on the other side of Lacey,
Gotcha.
they are very
Active.
into everything.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, but so, and in that case, in Wildwood South, maybe part of it is the people who run that one do a better job than I'm sure I do. Victor Marsh and Patty Marsh. Victor is constantly posting things on their page that he's picking up off the Fitchburg website.
Yes, it's very informative, it's very
So he's,
city-driven.
I'm an honorary member of theirs, and every time he posts something, I copy it and try to put it on ours. It's like,
Reduce, reuse,
well, he does all the
recycle.
work for me.
Yeah, no, well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, and I think you bring up an excellent point, like communication is pretty key and we just don't really, I mean, like, we don't have a communications
Yeah.
mechanism, really, which,
Well, even just something, if you saw, maybe before, Morgan's still working with you, right?
no, she's done.
She's
That was
done
the-
already?
Yes, well, she started in April, but she had a lot going on, and so unfortunately, she's done, and she was awesome,
Yes.
as you all know who met her, and she was great, but she did, she started early, which is awesome, and so and her hours were starting to run thin, and she just had some other things going on that she had to take care of, and she did get a job at DNR working on the Wolf Project, so she really needed to leave here to get the things she had to get done that were actually of fairly high consequence before she started her Wolf job. So I was just like, ugh, I just about cried. She gave me this bracelet. She was awesome. It was great. I mean, I could not have done this whole thing without her because we ran around, we completely updated the inventory, and it was really nice to have her because then you can walk and be like, green ash, white ash, this, that, measure, blah, and she's just, and she's capturing all the data, as we're just walking through, which is so nice. So we really got a lot done, and she also was very good at having a fresh view of this because I think some of you know, like, I worked exclusively on Emerald Ash Borer for 8 years before I came here when for Department of Agriculture, and so I kind of have a little bit of a jaded view on ash just because I've been working on it for so long. I've seen ash in the Emerald Ash Borer issue all across the upper Midwest, and so I kind of it's kind of old hat for me, but it was kind of a new thing for her, and so she was able to really bring a fresh perspective, which was really awesome. So anyway, yes, so she's gone. Yes.
Just wanted to say on the communications piece, Sue knows about this, Nextdoor is a good place to publish something.
See, but I can't put anything on Nextdoor.
Well, why not?
So the our neighborhood association
I'm
has a
not-
next door
I'm not-
and a Facebook and a website.
I think
And-
Cece set it up for Scott.
Oh, she did?
She may have. So a couple years ago, Scott Endel for the Parks Director, because we were trying to send out something.
She may
And
have.
I thought she did, and then something else came up the following year, and he said, no, it wasn't. So check. I
would
thought
check
it was
this
set
way.
up.
Because there's been all this Nextdoor angst, because there's all this stuff that happens on Nextdoor, right? And like, I don't live here, so I'm not on Nextdoor.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. And then sometimes like, you know, names get named. I'm like, well, I can't even look at it. I don't really know what even this person's, because someone will call like, well, on Nextdoor, there's a loose parakeet in Terra Vista. I'm like, oh,
There's a
good.
lot of garbage on that.
I'm like, okay.
Religion may vary on that.
City wouldn't be doing that, I wouldn't think.
Something else they do, like in our neighborhood association, they have like a police officer report out, so whoever shows up, we hear that, they write notes and share it with neighborhood. So there's that option too, if you have something you wanna talk about or get input or converse on.
They come to a meeting or?
Mhm.
Oh. And I guess I could do that. I mean.
So this, you know, each one maybe is a little different, not every association may meet, but, you know, different ones, you have different kind of options of ways to communicate. You kind of have to figure out what works for them.
And I guess all I'll say is like, we have done that before and I'm not saying it's bad, but it takes a tremendous amount of time. I mean, because you're going to all these neighborhood association meetings and then you're not doing other things.
Yeah,
So-
no, I think just sending out an email blast to them, and that's what they get, that's what we get, you know, from those various groups. And then if there's a link that you can link specifically,
Yeah.
that's really important, because you have incredibly valuable information on the website.
We try, thank you, Linda.
Very valuable.
We try.
It's still hard to kind of find some
It
of it.
is.
So if you have one link, then if the association is able to send things out to homeowners, they can also, if there's a small, I mean, it just needs to be like a summary and a link, and then people can do it that way.
No, you're right. So I'll try to put something together that we can email out to neighborhood associations and see how it goes, and maybe somebody could put it next door. I don't know. I kind of like, I'm a little suspicious of Nextdoor because like I've never been on it, right? Because I'm not, and where I live, there's
I mean,
no Nextdoor.
Yeah, I don't know if that's appropriate for the city.
I would ask,
No,
I don't know if Chad's the right person to ask, but I
Yeah.
think also like,
yeah,
I don't go on Nextdoor
There's-
personally.
Yeah.
no.
It
But
just seems like a lot of gossip, but
I think there's some helpful
From
things.
it. There's a lot
Yeah.
of garbage, but there's a lot of scoop.
Yeah. But you could spend a lot of time on it, I think, and
Yeah.
maybe asking like Chad, like, is there a central resource that, I don't know, if other things are being sent from other departments to these HOAs, maybe like
it's
tag
the-
on to it, it
it's
feels
the
like it
staff.
should be.
it's the staff doing it.
And, I mean, again, RCC is sending things out
Right,
regularly.
right.
The email blast that they do, the green blast, actually it fits into that category. I don't know if we can piggyback on, piggyback on that. Yeah, like green news, they have green news.
Trees feel like very green news.
Right. I wonder if we could piggyback on that, on a system that's already established, which might be nice.
Well, I will see, but I will make no promises because
Right.
I've tried
Good for
before.
you,
and
good for you.
It makes, it's,
But why don't you call one of us if we need some help with
Okay.
just
You're so nice. Yeah, and this is, I mean, y'all bring up a really great issue, a great point, and communication's just not, like, it's not part of our lexicon, and it should be, and
It's
I,
always part of our goal. I mean,
right, and that, and that's why I'm here, it's like, yeah, we'll put this on our website. But, what does that do?
well, no, that's good. That's the first thing we should do,
It's the
yeah.
first
And you're already doing that. I
Yeah.
do think that Fitchburg Star might be a good second step.
I
And then the blast to the neighborhood association, a third, and I mean, there's lots of ways to educate, but those have pretty big audiences. But I think the website's always first.
And I do think, for a long time, the state and the feds did an awful lot of education on this, so I think a lot of people, it's been a while, but I think a lot of people are at least aware, which is nice, because there was a huge education campaign, in the early 2000s until probably 2015, 16, I think 2016 probably. 2016, all the resources kind of left, but yeah.
One format might be like just frequently asked questions about how the city manages Emerald Ash Borer. And the answers to these questions have changed over the years.
They have.
Because the science has changed.
Right.
And we've learned more about the disease.
Yeah, right, and the only thing, I did not put this in here, but the other thing that I just want to bring up to this group is there have been pests introduced to attack emerald ash borer. There's been some wasps introduced, but they get introduced into more of a woodland setting. They really do not get utilized in the urban setting. So they're really, they might show up, I don't know, they're in the environment now. They might show up, but they're not really an option for us because I have had people be like, well, you need to release some of those wasps. Well, A, I really can't do that, but B, they're more of a landscape woodland kind of solution, not really an urban situation.
And I
So-
think I mean, your point that, you know, all of these emerald trees came from the same source. We can kind of
Right.
predict what's going to happen.
Right.
So based on
Right.
that and based on what we've learned through science in the last few years and data in the last 10 years, this is the situation.
Exactly. I mean, like, because most of our green ash was bred at a particular nursery. That was their bread and butter for years. They're all pretty much the same. White ash was developed, you know, autumn blaze white ash developed here at UW-Madison. They're all the same. That's
And
how
at that time, the city, we all thought that was the best practice, and now we see
Now
that
we
was a
know.
disaster. And that's not our practice now.
Right, exactly. No, exactly. So
Diversity, diversity, diversity.
exactly, which I think we do embrace.
Yeah.
So at any rate, long story longer, this is the update to the ML Ash Board plan. This is, I love this
Okay.
picture. This is anyway, from Detroit. So this is kind of what and I think we've kind of avoided this for the most part. And we don't have this here, which is awesome, and is a testament, I think, to our employees, especially our public work guys who do all this, who do the heavy lifting on all of this. But at any rate, so I guess just the long story longer, we don't have any hazardous ash trees that are hanging out there. We got a little behind on replacements, but when I say a little behind, I mean we're like maybe 10 trees behind, which is actually not too bad considering everything that
We
we've.
had a good rainy year this year
And-
to keep
right.
all the trees happy.
Yes,
I was thinking about that, thought, well,
Yes.
she's saving money on watering trees.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We may float away, but.
Right.
Had a
Right.
canoe trip canceled, it's like, okay, can't go on the Wisconsin River, all right.
Right. No, you're exactly right. The only thing I'll say that has changed is that, you know, at this point, emerald ash borer is so ubiquitous across the North American continent, it really is going to extirpate the Fraxinus genus, and there's no question about that anymore. It's found from pretty much from coast to coast. So I think people still are kind of trying to manage ash trees farther west, but there's no question that it is going to within the next, you know, probably decade and a half, it will be everywhere and it will extirpate ash trees throughout the continent. And there's no mystery to that. That's just that the horse is out of the barn. It's happening as we're, you know, there's beetles hatching and eating phloem right now. I mean, it's just how it goes. I will say though, in some of our parks, Greenfield being one, you do see ash resprouts that are too small for the borer to attack. Now, if those resprouts can seed and then come back up, if they can get mature enough to seed, we may have ash as a small shrub-like tree in the environment. Will it ever look like the trees in Greenfield or in Wellwood? No, probably not, unless we treat them. But that's kind of an interesting situation where we could have Fraxinus in a different form. But we're never gonna have, I mean, there's kind of no way, at this point, there's really no way around losing.
There's no way to stop it, and there's no way to save the trees that are
Exactly,
and
right.
the ones not infected will be fine.
Yes, thank you, Linda. So, at any rate, so that's the very much long story longer. I don't know if anyone has any questions. You guys brought up a lot of excellent points, and this is more an update of information more than it is an update of strategy. So, and we will get this on the website, and well, if it, you know, once it's approved, we'll get it through the website. I would also just like to say, since we do the treatment in-house, this is one of our park maintenance workers doing the treatment. Our treatment costs have been fairly straightforward, which is nice. We're very lucky that we do have park maintenance workers that do have the right certifications to do this treatment. You know, if that changes, the cost would probably triple. So that's something to keep in mind. But we do have a park maintenance worker that does have the right certifications to do this work, and so that's how we get it done.
All right, so are we ready to make a motion to approve then?
We have to approve, you want us to approve?
You need to vote on it.
We do.
We need to vote on this?
Yes, and then it goes to park commission, and then you guys have to vote on it.
And you're voting on the fact that it's updated.
Yes.
You're
So
verifying
we
that
need a
we've.
motion to approve it, is that?
Yes.
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. So move the motion to update the Emerald Ash Borer plan as is has been approved.
Thank you, guys, and I really appreciate all your comments and suggestions, and we will keep working at it, but it is not,
It's depressing.
it's very depressing. It is very depressing, and I really, and this is a steal. This 10 grand we spend every year in ash is a steal. I will just say that.
Would would it make any sense to try to put extra money in the budget for this?
So, good question. So where the extra money would come into, and this is a really good question, is, if we had those trees that like, for example, the trees last year that we tried to treat during the drought that didn't go as well as we would have liked. This year, should we try and check them again? That's gonna double our treatment costs.
Okay.
I don't know. That's where money would come in. I think the money is probably better spent on replacements.
Okay,
Too, I think it'd be a hard,
all right.
it'd be a hard line. It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a
But
good question.
I think it's a hard sell to
Yeah,
just be like,
okay.
we're just staving off the inevitable, as depressing again as that sounds.
Because it costs as much to treat one as to just plant one, right?
Pretty much, depending how big it is. Yeah,
And it's a better investment to plant one,
yeah.
and to care for the one that we planted.
Yeah.
That is a budget item, not.
Yeah, no, exactly, yes.
Yes, address.
Yeah, so I think when we get to that point where it's like, well, do we treat this again or up the chemicals? The answer that's when we remove it.
Okay.
So, yes, but excellent question. All right, so that's enough of Emma Lashmore, and anyway,
Okay.
I wish there was happier news. But this is actually happier news. The next agenda item is happier. I did the EAB plan first. I'm like, let's get the depressing stuff done. So this is, anyway, I will let you introduce it.
No, yeah, so the next agenda item is the grant for the Urban Forestry Management Plan, Resolution R 135-24. It's a DNR grant.
Do you want me to just describe what this is?
Please.
Okay. So as you recall, DNR got a bunch of money from the feds to do tree work in specific neighborhoods, which we applied for a grant, $170,000 from that pot of money. I don't know where that stands. However, it's a very good year to apply. DNR also has their regular grants, which is what this is. They have a pot of money every year to give away for grants, and so it's a really good, because they had the federal money and they have their regular money. It's a really good year to go to them hand in hand. So I wrote another grant for this one is for a strategic management plan, which this group took a stab at. You probably remember this. For years, there was kind of an effort to try and get a strategic urban forestry management plan for the city of Fitchburg, and it never really materialized. So this is a grant that would hire a consultant to do the heavy lifting to actually produce the document. Staff would supply them. Well, this group would, be part of it too, but we would be supplying them with the tree inventory and the ash borer plan and just all of our, our budget information and our staffing information and all of those sorts of things. And then they would, do the listening sessions and do all of the things you do when you're doing a plan and come up with a strategic plan for us. So that's the kind of the long story longer on what this grant is for, which I think would be really great to have a consultant look at our program and make some recommendations from a planning perspective. Anyway, yes.
So in terms of doing it yourself, that would be harder because of the time involved?
It would be because of the time involved, and I think we need a fresh look from outside eyes. I know what I would write. I don't know if it would be the right thing.
I have a question on a more technical question on the fourth paragraph.
Okay.
It says, whereas the DNR Urban Forestry Grant Program funds urban forestry strategic management plans, projects that positively impact trees and people within the city of Fitchburg with no required matching
There
funds.
is a match. Oops,
Okay,
I need to fix
I was
that.
like, I think we're certifying them to match
Yes.
lower and down, okay.
Yes, thank you for catching
Then
that.
absolutely, then this makes sense to me.
Yes.
And in the same vein, I want to point out, you've got a placeholder in one of your whereases.
Oh,
It's the one that says myriad of health, economic and community benefits such as, and then you didn't fill in the blanks.
oh, geez, okay.
Previous page, go back one, if you're looking for it, the other way. Just scroll up. There. Third from
There
the
we
bottom.
go. Yep. Okay, there we go. I need to do that. Huh. I almost wonder if I didn't put the right version on base. That could be. Anyway, I will fix these things. Thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, of course. personally think it's a great use of
Yep.
a consultant to come from the outside, to your point, and I'm not just saying that because I am a consultant. But I think it's a great use to not do all of the work, but to come in and say, like, your plan is sound, or here's actually where other municipalities have followed different best practices, like, you know, and getting someone who's done this for other municipalities in ideally Wisconsin, but in a similar climate at least, like, to have that, I think is such a good use of money, especially if it's, you know, matched and partially funded by the DNR, like.
And you know, and a planner is gonna come up with a better plan than a forester.
Right, you're gonna execute it beautifully,
Oh, thank you.
but but having somebody else come in and say, like, here's what you should be doing, and also you can't be everywhere all at once. Like, here's what other municipalities have decided is a good idea.
And I think the other thing too that I'm kind of looking forward to, I think, is, and if you look, so I resent you as the grant application, because I think when I put things, because the DNR has this Adobe situation that we don't really support because it's old, so I just printed it and I sent it to you as a scan, because I'm not sure that it's just, once I put that in on-base, it's very hard to open it, so at any rate, and I'm not sure, I don't know the technical part of that whole thing, but for whatever reason, like, I can open it on my computer, and then I put it in on-base, and then I can't open it on my computer. I'm like, this is really bizarre. So that's why I resent it to you as a scan. And basically what the project that I'm trying to get them to fund says, hey, we have these great elements of a truly remarkable urban forestry program. Like, you know, we have a great tree advisory committee, we have wonderful, we have wonderful staff, we really do have great, we have a nice tree preservation ordinance, we do have a nice tree planting ordinance, we are really working through Emerald Board in a positive way, like, we have some really great components, but we don't have an overall plan, and we just need someone to come in and just really kind of bring the stakeholders together, of which there are many, and, and kind of get an assessment of all of the great things that we have, all of the great directions we want to go, and just a plan on how to get there, if that makes sense, like, and really next level it, and just,
It makes a lot of sense. Can I just read the first whereas too? Because I think it's so powerful that if people are listening and not reading, they should hear that. Whereas the city of Fitchburg is interested in obtaining a cost share grant from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the purpose of funding urban and community forestry projects or urban forestry catastrophic storm projects. And it goes on from there, but
Was that, in that, what you just read, it says whereas twice, if you're looking for things.
geez.
yeah.
Thank you. You know what? What did I?
You put these in here on purpose, so we
I know.
we see what you're doing.
Okay, you guys are very nice. Yeah, I think I was just in a hurry. I don't know.
That's okay.
Anyway, that's a little, anyway, all right, I will get those fixed. So I appreciate you.
Okay, well, can we still make an emotion to approve?
Oh, absolutely, with the edits, and I will get
Right, but it's the changes and stuff,
I moved to approve.
which are just edits. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Motion approved for resolution R-135-24, DMO Grant Urban Forestry Management Plan. Right.
Thank you guys. Yeah, and I'll let you know how it goes. I think it's a really good timing because they had $3 million extra this year to throw at urban forestry. So it's, I think, really excellent timing. And I have been in touch with DNR, and they said this is the kind of thing they really do like to fund. And if you look at the grant that I put together, like, we have the chunks that they want us to have. We have an inventory, we have staff, we have, like, so it's just a matter of, like, okay, we've got this stuff, we need to get from here to here, and we just need that, we just need that, the plan, basically. And also, I think it would be good to have an outside person talk to all of our different stakeholders, of which there are many, many, many. So, right.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way just to make sure the whole city's on the same plan too.
Yes.
It's also really good timing when we're doing the strategic planning work. It's a really nice dovetail into both of those, because I think a large part of our strategic plan is that people like that Fitchburg feels urban and rural, and I think a big part of that is trees in their neighborhood. So
Yes.
And a connection with, that's probably right, urban forestry and storm management projects, which is,
As we
it
grow,
is,
yeah.
is part of every new development.
Yes.
So I think it's just really important.
It's a great
Right, right, and more so all the time. So, at any rate, this is the, as you're aware, this is the report from department, and again, Morgan was awesome, I really appreciated having her. We did get the ash component of the tree inventory completely updated, which is awesome, and that allowed us then to update the management plan, which I really appreciate. And then I wanted to bring up, this is kind of in the announcements, but next Tuesday, Sue will get her Invasive Species Action Award. Congratulations to you at the council next week. So, yes. So, and it was fun to go
I
with
need
you
to bring my, the award.
Yeah, which is
you know.
beautiful. Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
gonna be there?
I will be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I will be there.
Just stand up next to me and,
Yeah. We went to a very nice little
yeah.
in Horicon. That was nice.
Gonna try to think of a few things to say that, and you know, gigantic long speech, no, just a couple sentences
Nice.
to.
When you receive
Ty
the
would-
award at council?
Yeah, well, really, it's a recognition of something I've already received, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, it's just at the beginning of the.
Yeah, but the mayor asked, it would be lovely if you could.
Right, and so
Once we can
I've been to some of those others and seen other people, and they always say, would you like to say a few words? And so I'm thanking them.
Yeah.
Really, the council directs public dollars, right, throughout the community. So thanking them for public dollars that have been directed towards addressing invasive species, really, and saying, we'd always take more.
Right. So anyway, so that was one thing that was great, and if anyone wants to come to that council meeting, you're more than welcome to be there. So June was a lot of storm damage. We lost a lot of trees to storm damage. We still have, I finally am pretty much caught up with storm damage, but we will be replacing storm damage trees for what?
City trees?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't count the private trees, right?
No, not even close. And there's several oak trees, I will say, that lost tops or lost big chunks that I'm leaving until, so if you see a tree that still looks like crummy, it looks crummy as a big oak tree, we're leaving those, especially if there's no danger, if there's no target under it, we're leaving those, once the leaves are off, we're gonna look at those a little bit more carefully and see if we can't do some retrenchment, because I really don't wanna lose them. And the thing that is galling is these storms happened at peak oak wilt. So,
What?
peak oak wilt.
Oh.
So the picnic beetles were flying, and every injured oak tree had those beetles on them, and if they were on a previously infected oak tree, they're toast. So I've been trying to watch to see what's going on with that, but so I really hope those storms did not spread oak wilt all over the place. We'll see what happens. I don't know. So anyway, so we've been doing a lot of storm damage work, which is interesting. We did treat ash trees last month, which was awesome. And then we did that, you guys last month voted to approve the McGaw shade native plant installations. That's on fall planting. So I put that got approved, so we're gonna be planting that in September. So anyway.
Oh,
That's great.
Yeah, so that'll be awesome.
yeah.
So, and you guys saw the Million Trees grant grant report that I thought was great. Anyway, so just a lot going on. Storms really did dominate the airwaves. And that's how it goes. And we did lose a lot of trees, and anyway, not awesome. So, and we did, what is wrong with me? Why can I not do this? It's the mouse thing, right, Sue? It's the mouse thing. You want the mouse. You want the mouse. Anyway, so.
There's no mouse.
And there's no mouse. So the other thing I'll just talk, similar to what Sue had mentioned about, invasive species, we have done a lot of really awesome work in our natural areas this year, which has been really great. It's raining again. So we've been able to, we have planted a lot of plants and done a lot of work. And so if you are looking for a place to go for a walk in the next few days when the weather's awesome, we have a lot of awesome natural areas that look really great. So anyway, that's the staff report. A report from the department.
Fantastic. Alright. Are there any announcements?
I have a question. You and Craig were talking about doing some writing. Can we is there any problem with us three getting together and working on something? Is there any?
Three of us get together?
Three is not.
Right, what?
I'm sorry, what?
3, are you asking like quorum question?
Right, yes.
I'm asking if, yeah, that
That's
there's
fine.
any
I
problem.
think,
It wouldn't be a quorum, right?
No.
Is there- So that would be okay, and we would,
Sounds like it.
anything we did, we would probably bring here first, right?
Yep.
Okay,
And I think our next meeting is September 12th, is that correct?
don't know.
I guess so.
I think it is.
Calendar. Paper calendar, can't help it.
I don't have it on, so the next one I have is September.
Yep, September 12th, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think that's right.
Good.
Right.
I have it down on the 8th, but we don't, that's not correct,
September 8th is a Sunday.
No, August 8th. That's, I need to erase that?
Well, good question. Let's make sure.
Sometimes I miss things when things get canceled and moved around. I usually kind of do it off a printed list.
Yeah, so do I.
You guys? So I will double check, but I don't think we meet in August typically.
No, I don't think so. I think our next meeting is in September.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll need it then.
I think.
Saved me from showing up here and wondering, where is everybody?
That's always a
I
fun
showed up
thing.
here when the council meeting was canceled and I came to the door and it was all locked up. Nobody told us.
Speech in
Oh,
All right.
we're gonna give you your,
Oh, the
your award thing.
Oh, did I email you guys?
No,
I didn't?
no.
I thought I did. Oh, jeez, now I feel like a jerk.
That's okay. It took me 5 minutes to come here and go back home.
Okay.
It's no big deal.
I feel like a jerk. Okay.
Anything else? All right. A motion to end the meeting, adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting adjourns at 5:05. Thank you all very much.
Great.